Preview.
The year is 1954, and 25-year-old Lieutenant Seamus O'Farrell is preparing for a lone flight, a flight that will haunt him for the rest of his life. It's the evening of August 31st, and Lieutenant O'Farrell has been briefed for a navigational patrol and exercise that will take him from Manara Naval Air Station in southern New South Wales, west to Young, to Moora and Yass, and then back to base. His aircraft, the Sea Fury, is the fastest piston-engined plane in the air. Top speed 400 knots. A cool customer, Seamus O'Farrell is destined for high military honours. He's also destined for an encounter that is so inexplicable it remained in the top secret files of the Defence Department for more than 30 years.
I didn't think there was anything in there that was likely to affect national security, but other people obviously did.
39 years after the event, Seamus O'Farrell can talk openly about his mysterious experience. But back then in 1954, he was terrified it would wreck his career.
I was a bit ashamed about it all. People thought that I'd flipped my lid or lost control or done something silly. And it generally was regarded as a bit of a joke by the rest of the aircrew. You know, people would have a few drinks and they'd say to you, "Come on, let's have another drink, O'Farrell, and tell us a bit more about those flying saucers."
For the pilot, everything appeared normal as the Sea Fury took off from Nowra and headed into the setting sun.
Nowra base, this is Navigator 91. Can you confirm that there are no other aircraft in the region?
The actual tapes of the radio transmissions between the Sea Fury and Nowra base have been erased by the Defence Department. But the conversations you will hear in this story are as close as we can get to the real thing. They are the recollections of the pilot, Seamus O'Farrell, and his link with Nowra base radar operator, Petty Officer Keith Jessup. The first two legs of the flight were uneventful, but as Lieutenant O'Farrell turned into the last leg, Petty Officer Jessup noticed something unusual happening on his radar screen. Two strange echoes that were closing in fast on the Sea Fury.
What these two objects were, I didn't have any idea, and I was concerned with the safety, so I reported to the relevant officer in charge of that area at the time.
A full minute later, Seamus O'Farrell in Sea Fury 921 realised he was not alone up there at 13,000 feet.
Nowra base 921, we have you on screen with two other echoes. Can you confirm? Over. Navigator 921 tracking, yes, Nowra 13,000 feet in close formation with two other aircraft.
They were formating with me. They were moving along with me and holding their station with me. And they were about the same distance out on either side.
Nowra base 921, can you identify aircraft for us, please? Navigator 921, negative.
Try to picture Seamus O'Farrell's predicament. When he left Nowra, he had been briefed that there would be no other aircraft on his flight path. Suddenly, he was confronted with the impossible. Two unidentified craft, two brilliant white lights, flying in formation with the Sea Fury. One was about 30 metres on his port side, the other 30 metres to starboard.
At the time, I just knew that there shouldn't have been anything else there, and we I brought the attention to the naval officer I set in charge and to our staff, and our staff in there were equally as surprised. We did plot on our radar screen all 3 radar objects, and it had to be something, because we wouldn't have got a radar echo, as we called them, back to the radar room had it not been a substance that reflected our radar beams.
Narrow base 921, can you execute a 180-degree turn so we can identify your position? Over. Narrow 921, commencing 180-degree turn. Narrow base 921, complete 360 return to track. Over. Narrow 921, roger.
By this time, there was a minor panic in the radar room at Nowra. They started checking and double-checking. The Air Force confirmed they had no planes in the air that night. Sydney Airport Tower reported there were no civilian aircraft flying in the area. And up above, the 2 objects were maintaining formation with the Sea Fury. Then after several minutes, they confounded everyone. They sped away into the night.
Narrow base 921, confirm, echoes, moving to northeast. Over. Narrow 921, confirm aircraft have left formation on track to the northeast, yeah.
Then I saw the rate at which they were able to open up from me, fly ahead of me, cross directly in front of me and take station on the other side, almost in the flash of an eye, leaving me apparently standing still relative to their motion. And that's what made me think. I then stopped and thought about it and said, this is incredible. What sort of aircraft have I got out here? And I knew then, in my own mind, that there were no aircraft in Australia that could do that.
What sort of aircraft indeed? Remember, the Sea Fury was one of the most powerful aircraft in the sky. Back then in 1954, it could do an amazing 400 knots. After those 2 unidentified objects shot past Sea Fury 921, the radar operators at Narra Base did some calculations. They estimated that the UFOs had to be travelling, really travelling, at over 1,000 knots. When Lieutenant O'Farrell arrived back at Narra Base, there was a welcoming committee waiting for him. He was immediately ordered to sickbay for an exhaustive series of tests. The medicos questioned his drinking habits, his state of mind, his fitness, just about everything. But Seamus O'Farrell was given a clean bill of health. So clean, in fact, that he went on to become one of the Navy's top pilots and eventually naval attaché in Washington.
As the years went by, I became more embarrassed, and I just wiped it out of memory and never worried about it again. It was always intrigued me. It's always worried me. I saw no explanation, but I didn't see any need to tell anybody else about it or talk about it.
Despite his distinguished career, Seamus O'Farrell's file remained secret for more than 30 years. When it was finally declassified, the file revealed there were 2 more independent witnesses to the incident. An engineer working on a radio tower at Marulan in western New South Wales had sighted the objects as they flew overhead. And an air traffic controller at Sydney Airport logged unusual lights passing to the south of the city. The first civilian to study the file was UFO researcher and investigator Bill Chalker.
One has to bear in mind the credentials that come with the sighting. You have a highly qualified and experienced pilot. You have confirmation from the ground from the radar operator. You have 2 separate ground witnesses, all confirming the presence of an unidentified or 2 unidentified aircraft of some description, and doing things that were apparently inexplicable or beyond the capabilities apparent at that time.
Seamus O'Farrell has no doubt what he saw that evening in 1954. And because of the evidence, especially the documented radar sightings, a United States government report rated this close encounter as one of the 13 most significant in the world.
To this day, I'm as certain as I was then that I saw two objects flying in close formation with me, and I'm convinced they weren't aeroplanes that come from the Navy, the Army or the Air Force or civil aviation. Whatever they were very fast craft, and they were very good performance.